Human warrior protects alien princess. Queen won't allow his death. The ship shook hard as another explosion hit the outer hull. Cole grabbed the wall to stop himself from falling. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the alarm was screaming so loud that he could barely hear himself think. He was just a security guard. That was his job on the diplomatic ship called the Wandering Star. He protected important people when they traveled through dangerous parts of space. It was simple work most of the time. Stand near the door. Look tough. Make sure nobody caused trouble. But this was not most of the time. Cole ran down the corridor toward the royal chambers. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. He had a plasma pistol in his right hand and a combat knife on his belt. That was all he had. The ship's armory was on the other side of the vessel, and there was no time to get there. They were an old and peaceful species. They had stopped fighting wars thousands of years ago. Their guards wore beautiful armor and carried fancy weapons, but they had never used them in real combat. When the raiders attacked, those guards died in the first 5 minutes. Cole had watched it happen. He had seen the soldiers cut through the defenders like they were made of paper. They were tall and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered in the light. But grace did not stop bullets. Beauty did not block plasma fire. Now Cole was the only thing standing between the raiders and their target. Princess. She was the daughter of Queen, the ruler of the entire civilization. The princess was traveling to a peace conference when the attack happened. Someone must have told the syndicate about her route. Someone had betrayed and now the princess was going to pay the price. Unless Cole stopped it. He reached the door to the royal chambers and pressed his hand against the scanner. The door slid open and he stepped inside. The room was large and filled with expensive things. Silk curtains hung from the ceiling. Crystal sculptures sat on golden tables. It looked like a museum, not a bedroom. And there, hiding behind an overturned couch, was Princess. She looked up when Cole entered, her violet eyes wide with fear. She was young, maybe the equivalent of 25 in human years, though they lived for centuries. Her silver skin was pale and her hands were shaking. "Stay down," Cole said. "I'm going to get you out of here." "The guards," she whispered, "they're all." "I know, I'm sorry, but right now we need to move." He helped her to her feet. She was tall, almost a full head taller than him, but she felt fragile. They were not built for violence. Their bones were lighter than human bones. Their muscles were weaker. They were thinkers and artists, not fighters. Cole led her toward the back of the room, where there was a hidden door that connected to the escape pods. Every diplomatic ship had emergency routes for exactly this kind of situation. If he could get the princess to a pod, she could launch into space and wait for rescue. The fleet would come eventually. They just needed to survive until then. But they only made it halfway across the room before the main door exploded. Cole pushed the princess behind him and raised his pistol. 3 soldiers came through the smoke, their weapons already firing. They were ugly creatures, with gray skin covered in thick scales and eyes that glowed red in the darkness. They were bigger than humans, stronger too, and they loved to kill. Cole shot the first one in the face. The plasma bolt burned a hole through its skull, and it dropped without a sound. The second one fired at Cole, but he was already moving, diving to the side and rolling behind a marble pillar. The plasma shots hit the pillar and made it crack, but it held. He leaned out and fired twice more. One shot missed. The other hit the second soldier in the chest, punching through its armor and into its heart. It fell backward, crashing into the third soldier and buying Cole a few precious seconds. He used those seconds to close the distance. By the time the third soldier pushed its dead companion aside, Cole was already there. He grabbed its weapon with one hand and drove his knife into its throat with the other. Hot blood sprayed across his face, but he did not stop. He twisted the knife and pulled it free, then kicked the body away. 3 down, but there would be more. "Come on," he said to the princess. "We need to keep moving." She stared at him with an expression he could not read. It might have been horror, it might have been amazement. He did not have time to figure it out. They made it to the hidden door. Cole typed in the emergency code and the door slid open to reveal a narrow corridor. It was dark inside, lit only by small emergency lights along the floor. The escape pods were at the end, about 50 meters away. They started running. Cole could hear more soldiers behind them. They were shouting to each other in their harsh language, calling for backup. They knew someone was fighting back. They would send more troops to deal with the problem. Cole was the problem. They were halfway down the corridor when a door on the left side burst open. 2 more soldiers appeared, blocking their path. Cole did not hesitate. He shot the first one in the face and tackled the second one before it could fire. They hit the ground together, wrestling for control of the soldier's weapon. They was strong, stronger than Cole, but humans had something they did not understand. They had desperation. They had the will to survive. Cole headbutted the soldier, breaking its nose. Then he grabbed its head and twisted as hard as he could. The neck snapped with a wet crack. Cole stood up, breathing hard. His hands were covered in blood, some of it his own. One of the soldiers had scratched him with its claws, leaving deep cuts on his arm. The wounds burned, but he ignored them. "Are you hurt?" he asked the princess. She shook her head, still staring at him with those wide violet eyes. "Good, keep moving." They reached the escape pods. There were 3 of them, small vessels designed to hold 2 or 3 people each. Cole opened the nearest one and helped the princess inside. "Launch sequence is automatic," he said. "Just press the green button and it will take you to safety. The fleet will pick up your signal." "What about you?" she asked. "I'm staying here." "What? No, you have to come with me." Cole shook his head. "If I leave, they'll chase you. They'll shoot down the pod before it can get clear. But if I stay, I can buy you time. Keep them busy until you're out of range." "You'll die." "Maybe," he smiled, though there was no humor in it. "But that's the job. Protecting you is what I was hired to do." The princess grabbed his hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin, smooth like polished metal. "I don't even know your name," she said. "Cole. Cole," she said it slowly, like she was memorizing it. "I won't forget what you've done for me. Don't worry about it. Just go live, that's all I ask." He pulled his hand free and closed the pod door. Through the small window, he could see her face, her violet eyes filled with something that might have been tears if they could cry. Then he pressed the launch button, and the pod shot away into the darkness of space. She was safe. Now it was time to die. Cole turned around and walked back down the corridor. He could hear the coming, lots of them this time. They had figured out that someone was causing trouble, and they were sending everything they had to stop him. Good, let them come. He emerged from the corridor into a large cargo bay. It was empty except for some storage crates and a few broken pieces of equipment. The fighting had already passed through here, leaving scorch marks on the walls and bodies on the floor. Most of them were guards. A few were soldiers. Cole picked up a rifle from one of the dead soldiers. It was heavy, designed for hands, but he could make it work. He also grabbed a couple of grenades and a backup pistol. If he was going to die, he was going to take as many of these monsters with him as possible. The first wave came through the main door. There were 6 of them, moving in formation like trained soldiers. They saw Cole standing in the middle of the cargo bay and opened fire immediately. Cole dove behind a stack of crates. Plasma bolts flew over his head, burning holes in the metal wall behind him. He waited for a pause in the shooting, then leaned out and returned fire. His shots were accurate, hitting 2 soldiers before they could react. The other 4 scattered, taking cover behind their own crates. Cole used the moment to move, rolling to a new position before they could pin him down. Combat was about movement. If you stayed in one place too long, you were dead. He popped up and shot another soldier in the head. 3 down, 3 to go. but more were coming. He could hear them in the corridor, shouting and stomping their heavy boots. Cole threw a grenade at the door. It exploded just as the reinforcements arrived, killing at least 4 of them and blocking the entrance with debris. That would slow them down, but not for long. The remaining 3 soldiers from the first wave used the distraction to advance. Cole shot one, but the other 2 reached him before he could fire again. One of them knocked the rifle from his hands. The other swung a blade at his head. Cole ducked under the blade and punched the soldier in the throat. It staggered back, choking. He grabbed the other soldier's arm and twisted it, forcing the blade from its grip. Then he drove the blade into the soldier's chest, burying it up to the hilt. The choking soldier recovered and lunged at him. Cole grabbed its head, slamming it into a nearby crate. The soldier went limp and fell to the ground. 6 down. But the debris blocking the door was already being cleared. Cole could hear the soldiers on the other side, pulling away the broken metal and shouting orders. They would be through in seconds. He picked up his rifle and found a new position behind a heavy cargo container. His arm was bleeding badly now, and his whole body ached from the fighting. But he was not done yet, not by a long shot. They broke through the debris and poured into the cargo bay. There were at least 10 of them, maybe more. They spread out quickly, trying to surround Cole's position. He shot 3 of them before they could get into cover. The others returned fire, filling the air with plasma bolts. Cole ducked down as the cargo container shook from multiple impacts. The metal was starting to melt, and soon it would not protect him anymore. He threw his second grenade over the container, aiming for the largest group of soldiers. The explosion was loud and satisfying. When he looked up, he saw bodies scattered across the floor. But there were still more coming. Cole fought like a man possessed. He moved and shot and killed, never staying in one place for more than a few seconds. Bodies piled up around him, soldiers falling one after another. His rifle ran out of ammunition, so he switched to his pistol. When that ran out, he used his knife. By the time the second wave was finished, Cole was covered in blood and barely able to stand. His arm was numb from blood loss, and his ribs felt like they were on fire. At least 2 of them were broken, maybe more. But he was still alive, and the princess was safe. That was when the commander arrived. He was bigger than the others, nearly 7 feet tall and covered in thick armor that looked like it could stop a plasma cannon. He carried a massive hammer in one hand, a weapon designed to crush tanks and break through reinforced walls. His red eyes glowed with anger as he surveyed the cargo bay, taking in the dozens of dead soldiers scattered across the floor. "A human," the commander said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "One human did all this." Cole forced himself to stand straight. His legs were shaking and his vision was starting to blur, but he would not show weakness. Not to this monster. "That's right," he said, "and I'm not done yet." The commander laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of contempt and amusement. "You can barely stand. Your weapons are empty, your body is broken, and you think you can fight me. Only one way to find out." Cole pulled out his knife. It was the only weapon he had left. The blade was stained with blood, and his hand was slippery from his own wounds. It was a terrible matchup, a broken human with a knife against an armored giant with a war hammer. But Cole did not care about the odds. He never had. The commander swung his hammer. Cole dove to the side, feeling the wind as the massive weapon passed inches from his head. The hammer hit the floor and left a crater in the metal plating. Cole rolled to his feet and slashed at the commander's arm. The knife scraped against the armor but did not penetrate. The commander swung again, and this time Cole was not fast enough. The hammer caught him in the side, sending him flying across the cargo bay. He hit the wall and crumpled to the floor. Pain exploded through his body. He could feel his broken ribs shifting inside him, cutting into his lungs. Every breath was agony. But he got up anyway. The commander paused, looking at Cole with something that might have been surprise. The human was bleeding from a dozen wounds. He could barely breathe. He should be dead or at least unconscious. But he was standing again, knife still in hand, ready to fight. "Why?" the commander asked. "Why do you keep fighting? The princess is gone. Your job is done. Just lie down and die like a sensible creature." "Because I'm human," Cole said, "and humans don't know when to quit." He charged at the commander, moving faster than his broken body should allow. The commander swung his hammer, but Cole ducked under it and got inside his guard. He drove his knife into a gap between the armor plates, finding the soft flesh underneath. The commander roared in pain and grabbed Cole by the throat. He lifted the human into the air and squeezed. Cole could feel his windpipe being crushed, his vision going dark. But he did not let go of the knife. With his last bit of strength, he twisted the blade and pushed it deeper. The commander's grip loosened. He staggered backward, looking down at the knife buried in his side. Blood was pouring from the wound, too much blood. Cole had hit something vital. "Impossible," the commander whispered. Then he fell. Cole fell too. He lay on the cold metal floor, staring up at the ceiling through eyes that could barely see. His chest felt like it was full of broken glass. Every breath was getting harder. He knew he was dying. But the princess was safe. That was all that mattered. He closed his eyes and waited for the end. The end did not come. Instead, Cole woke up on a soft bed in a room filled with light. The ceiling above him was made of crystal, and through it, he could see two suns shining in a purple sky. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy, like it was made of stone. "Do not try to get up," a voice said. "Your wounds are still healing." Cole turned his head and saw a female standing beside his bed. She was tall and silver-skinned, with long white hair that flowed down her back like a waterfall. Her violet eyes were kind but tired, like someone who had seen too much sadness. "Where am I?" Cole asked. His voice was rough and weak. "You are on Velar Prime, the of my people. You have been unconscious for 3 days." 3 days? Cole tried to sit up again, and this time he managed to get his elbows under him. "The princess, is she okay?" "She is fine, thanks to you. Your distraction allowed her escape pod to reach safety. A patrol ship picked her up within 2 hours." Cole let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. "Good, that's good." "It is more than good, Cole. You saved the life of the heir to the throne. My people are in your debt." "Your people, who are you?" The female smiled, and there was something ancient in that smile, something that spoke of centuries of wisdom and power. "I am queen," she said, "and you saved my daughter." Cole stared at her. He had never met a queen before. He was just a security guard from Earth, a nobody who took dangerous jobs because they paid well. He had no business being in the same room as royalty. "I was just doing my job," he said. "No, what you did went far beyond any job. You fought against impossible odds. You killed dozens of enemy soldiers. You faced their commander in single combat and won. And you did all of this not for money or glory, but because an innocent person needed help." She moved closer to the bed, and Cole could see that she was carrying something in her hands. It was a small disc made of black metal, covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. "I have watched the security recordings from the ship," said. "I saw everything you did, and I have spent the last 3 days trying to decide how to repay such a debt. You don't owe me anything. I told you I was just doing my job." "Perhaps, but I am a queen and I do not let debts go unpaid." She held up the black disc. "Do you know what this is?" Cole shook his head. "It is called the Heart of the Eternal. It is a relic of my people, created thousands of years ago by our greatest healers. It has the power to bind one life to another, to share the strength of the giver with the receiver." "I don't understand." Sat down on the edge of the bed. Her violet eyes were serious, and there was a weight to her words that made Cole pay attention. "You are dying, Cole. My physicians have done what they can, but human bodies are different from bodies. We do not know how to heal you properly. Without intervention, you will be dead within the hour." Cole closed his eyes. He had known, somewhere deep inside, that his injuries were too severe to survive. He had felt death coming for him in the cargo bay, had felt it again when he woke up in this strange room. His body was broken in too many places. "That's okay," he said quietly. "I made my peace with it." "Well, I have not." His voice was sharp, and when Cole opened his eyes, he saw that she was angry. "I will not allow you to die. You saved my daughter, the only family I have left. I will not repay that by letting you fade away in a hospital bed." "What can you do? You said your physicians can't help." "My physicians cannot, but I can." She pressed the black disc against Cole's chest, and immediately he felt a warmth spreading through his body. It started at his heart and moved outward, filling his veins with liquid fire. "What are you doing?" he gasped. "I am binding your life to mine. The heart of the Eternal will connect us soul to soul. As long as I live, you will live. Your wounds will heal, your strength will return, and you will never age or sicken again." That's impossible." "Many things are impossible until they are done." The warmth was getting stronger now, almost too hot to bear. Cole's broken ribs shifted and snapped back into place. His torn muscles knitted themselves together. The cuts on his arm closed and faded until there was no sign they had ever existed. "Why?" Cole managed to ask through gritted teeth. "Why would you do this for me?" "Because you deserve it. Because my daughter asked me to. And because the galaxy needs more people like you, Cole. People who will stand against evil even when there is no hope of victory. People who will protect the innocent without asking for anything in return." The warmth faded, and Cole realized that he felt better than he had in years. All of his pain was gone. His body was whole. He felt strong, stronger than he had ever been. He sat up and looked at his hands. The scars from old wounds had disappeared. His skin was smooth and healthy. "This is incredible," he said. "This is just the beginning." Stood up and stepped back from the bed. "You are now bound to the royal bloodline. As long as a member of my family lives, you cannot die. Your wounds will heal no matter how severe. Your body will not age. You will be, for all practical purposes, immortal." Cole stared at her. "Immortal?" "Yes, is that not what you wanted?" I don't know. I never thought about it." Smiled. "Most people do not. But you have time now, all the time in the world. And I hope you will use it well." The door to the room opened and Princess walked in. She was wearing a simple white dress, and her silver skin seemed to glow in the light of the twin suns. When she saw Cole sitting up, her face lit up with joy. "You're awake," she said, rushing to his bedside. "I was so worried. When they brought you in, you were barely alive. The physicians said they had never seen a human so badly injured." "I'm fine now," Cole said, "thanks to your mother." Looked at, and something passed between them, some kind of communication that Cole could not understand. Then the princess turned back to him, and her eyes were wet with tears that they could apparently cry after all. "Thank you," she said, "for saving my life, for fighting when no one else could, for being so brave." "I wasn't brave," Cole said. "I was just stubborn." "Same thing in my experience," took his hand and squeezed it. "I meant what I said on the ship. I won't forget what you did for me, ever. It was my job." "Stop saying that." She was smiling now, even through her tears. "You went far beyond any job. You almost died for me. You would have died for me if my mother had not intervened. That is not a job. That is something else entirely." Cole did not know what to say to that. He had never been good with emotions, never known how to handle moments like this. So he just nodded and tried to smile. Watched them for a moment, then spoke. "Cole, I have a proposal for you." "A proposal?" "Yes. Now that you are bound to our bloodline, you are effectively part of our family. But I do not expect you to simply sit idle. I would like to offer you a position in my service." "What kind of position?" "You saw how my guards performed during the attack. They are good at ceremonies and parades, but they know nothing of real combat. I want you to change that. I want you to train them, to teach them how to fight the way humans fight, to make them into warriors who can actually protect my family." Cole considered this. It was not what he had expected. He had always worked alone, never stayed in one place for too long. The idea of settling down, of belonging to something larger than himself, was strange and unfamiliar. But it was also appealing, in a way he had never experienced before. "I have conditions," he said. "Name them." "I train them my way. No interference from your generals or your politicians. If they're going to learn to fight, they need to learn it right." "Agreed." "And I need access to your intelligence networks. If someone betrayed you to I want to find out who. They can't be allowed to do it again." His eyes narrowed slightly. "You think there was a traitor?" "I know there was. They knew exactly when and where to attack. They knew the ship's layout, knew where the princess's chambers were. That information had to come from somewhere." "You are more perceptive than I expected," said. "Very well. You will have access to whatever resources you need. Find the traitor and bring them to justice." "And one more thing." "Yes." Cole looked at. "I'm not doing this for a salary or a title. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. But if I'm going to stay here to be part of this, I need to know that I'm trusted. I need to know that I'm not just a tool to be used and discarded." His expression softened. "Cole, you saved my daughter. You nearly died for her. You have proven your loyalty beyond any doubt. From this moment forward, you are not just a servant or a guard. You are a member of my household with all the rights and privileges that entails. You will be trusted, respected, and protected. This I swear to you." Cole nodded slowly. It was more than he had ever expected, more than he had ever dreamed of. A home, a purpose, a family of sorts. "Then I accept," he said. "I'll stay." His grip on his hand tightened, and when he looked at her, he saw something in her eyes that he had not noticed before. It was more than gratitude, more than relief. It was something deeper, something that made his heart beat a little faster. "I'm glad," she said softly. "I was hoping you would say that." Cole spent the next few weeks recovering and learning about his new home. Velar Prime was a beautiful world, with purple skies and golden forests and oceans that sparkled like liquid silver. There were a graceful and cultured people, devoted to art and music and philosophy. They had not fought a war in centuries, and they had almost forgotten what violence looked like. Cole was going to remind them. He started with the Royal Guards, 50 warriors who had been chosen for their beauty and their lineage rather than their fighting ability. They were good with swords and could perform impressive displays of martial arts, but they had never been in a real fight. When Cole asked them what they would do if someone attacked them with a gun, they looked at him like he was speaking a foreign language. "Guns are for criminals," one of them said. "A true warrior fights with honor using traditional weapons." "Honor is for people who can afford it," Cole replied. "When someone is trying to kill you, all that matters is survival. If your enemy has a gun, you need to either have a better gun or be fast enough to close the distance before they can shoot you." He taught them how to shoot. He taught them how to fight dirty, how to use their environment as a weapon, how to survive when everything went wrong. He taught them about ambushes and flanking maneuvers and the importance of communication in combat. Some of them resisted. They thought his methods were crude and beneath them. Cole responded by putting them in training simulations and watching them die over and over again until they understood that pride was not a substitute for skill. Others embraced his teachings eagerly. They saw the wisdom in his approach, understood that the galaxy was a dangerous place and that the old ways were not enough to protect them. These guards became Cole's best students, and they spread his lessons to the others. Slowly, the royal guard began to change. They became harder, more alert, more prepared for the realities of combat. They still wore their beautiful armor and carried their traditional weapons, but they also learned to use plasma rifles and grenades. They learned to think like soldiers instead of performers. And through it all, Princess was there. She attended his training sessions, watching from the sidelines with her violet eyes focused on his every move. She asked him questions about human warfare, about the battles he had fought, about the people he had lost. She seemed genuinely interested in understanding him, in learning what made him the way he was. Cole found himself looking forward to her visits. She was smart and curious and funny in a way he had not expected from royalty. She laughed at his jokes and teased him about his terrible cooking, and listened patiently when he talked about Earth, about the planet he had left behind and never expected to see again. "Do you miss it?" she asked one evening, as they sat on a balcony watching the twin suns set over the golden forest. "Sometimes," Cole admitted. "Earth is beautiful in its own way, green and blue and full of life, but it's also crowded and noisy and dirty. Coming here to Velar Prime, it's like stepping into a dream." "A good dream." "The best." He looked at her silver skin glowing in the fading light, at her violet eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "I never thought I would find a place where I belonged. I spent my whole life moving from one job to the next, never staying anywhere for long. But here, with your people with you, I feel like I've finally come home." Smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Cole had ever seen. "I'm glad," she said. "I was worried that you would get bored, that you would want to leave and find new adventures somewhere else. There are plenty of adventures here. Training your guards, hunting for the traitor, learning about your culture. It's more than enough to keep me busy." "And me, am I enough to keep you interested?" The question was playful, but there was something underneath it, a vulnerability that Cole recognized because he felt it himself. "You're more than enough," he said. "You're everything." She leaned closer, and for a moment Cole thought she might kiss him. But then a servant appeared on the balcony, apologizing for the interruption and informing them that the Queen required their presence in the throne room. The moment passed, but something had changed between them. Cole could feel it, a tension that had nothing to do with danger and everything to do with possibility. They walked to the throne room together, side by side but not quite touching. The guards at the door bowed as they entered, and Cole saw that the room was full of advisors and generals, all of them looking worried. Queen sat on her crystal throne, her expression grave. When she saw Cole she gestured for them to approach. "We have received word from our intelligence network," she said. "The Syndicate is planning another attack. This time they are targeting Velar Prime itself." A murmur went through the assembled advisors. Velar Prime had not been attacked in over 1,000 years. It was supposed to be untouchable, protected by ancient treaties and the fear of retaliation. "How is this possible?" one of the generals asked. "We have defenses, alliances, surely they would not dare." "They dare because they are desperate," replied. "The commander that Cole killed was the leader of their entire syndicate. Without him, the organization is falling apart. The remaining leaders have decided on one final gamble, a strike at the heart of our civilization to prove that they are still powerful." "When will they attack?" Cole asked. "Within the week. Our spies believe they are gathering their remaining forces for a single massive assault. Then we need to prepare. Strengthen the defenses, mobilize the fleet, evacuate civilian areas that might be targeted." "All of that is being done, but there is something else, something that concerns me more than the attack itself." Leaned forward, her violet eyes fixed on Cole. "Our spies have also confirmed what you suspected. There is a traitor in our midst, someone who has been feeding information to and they are planning to strike from within during the attack." "Do we know who it is?" "Not yet, but we believe they are someone with access to the royal household, someone who knew about travel plans and the layout of the diplomatic ship. Cole's hands clenched into fists. He had been hunting for the traitor for weeks, but whoever they were, they had covered their tracks well. Now, with an attack coming, the stakes were higher than ever. "I'll find them," he said. "Before the attack, I'll find them and stop them." "I know you will. That is why I am giving you full authority to investigate anyone in the palace, regardless of rank or position. If you suspect someone, you have my permission to interrogate them by whatever means necessary." Cole nodded. It was a lot of power for a human to have in a court, and he knew that some of the advisors would resent it, but trusted him, and that was all that mattered. "I'll start immediately," he said, "but I'll need help, someone who knows the palace, who can move through the court without arousing suspicion." He looked at, and she nodded before he even asked. "I'll help," she said. "This is my home, my people. I won't let some traitor destroy everything my mother has built." For the next 3 days, Cole investigated everyone who had access to sensitive information. They questioned servants and guards, advisors and officials. They reviewed communications and searched private quarters. They followed leads that went nowhere and pursued hunches that turned out to be wrong. But slowly, they began to narrow down the possibilities. The traitor had to be someone who knew about travel plans, which limited the pool to about 30 people. They also had to have some way of communicating with which required access to long-range transmitters. That narrowed it down further, to about a dozen suspects. On the 4th day, they found him. His name was Lord, a minor noble who served as one of the Queen's advisors on trade and commerce. He was old, even by standards, with silver skin that had faded to a dull gray and eyes that had lost their luster. He had been overlooked in the investigation because he seemed so harmless, so unimportant. But Cole had noticed something. Every time there was a leak of information, had been present at the relevant meetings. Every time the seemed to know exactly where to strike, had been involved in the planning discussions. It could have been coincidence, but Cole did not believe in coincidence. They arrested him quietly in the middle of the night, before he could warn his masters or destroy evidence. When they searched his quarters, they found a hidden transmitter tuned to frequencies and a coded log of every piece of information he had sold to the enemy. "Why?" demanded, as the guards led away in chains. "Why would you betray your own people?" Laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the empty corridor. "Because your mother's peace is a lie. They have become weak, soft, complacent. We needed a war to wake us up, to remind us of what we used to be. There were supposed to be that wake-up call. People died because of you. Good people, innocent people. Sacrifices for the greater good. Your mother would understand if she were not so blinded by her foolish ideals." Cole stepped forward and hit across the face. The old noble staggered, blood dripping from his split lip. "Take him away," Cole said to the guards. "Put him somewhere secure. The Queen will decide what to do with him." After was gone, stood silently in the corridor, her arms wrapped around herself as if she were cold. Cole moved to her side but did not touch her, not wanting to presume. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," she admitted. "I thought I knew. I thought he was loyal. But he was lying this whole time, pretending to serve my mother while working to destroy her. Some people are good at hiding who they really are. It's not your fault for not seeing through him." "But I should have seen it. I should have known." She turned to face him, and there were tears on her cheeks. "What if there are others? What if the palace is full of traitors, all waiting for the right moment to strike?" "There might be, but we'll find them. We'll find all of them and we'll stop them. That's what I'm here for." "That's not all you're here for." She reached out and took his hand, intertwining her silver fingers with his human ones. "You're also here because I want you to be, because I need you to be. I know it's selfish, but I don't care anymore. I can't lose you, Cole. Not after everything we've been through." Cole looked at her, at this alien princess who had somehow become the most important person in his life. He had spent so long alone, so long keeping people at a distance, but had broken through his walls without even trying, simply by being kind and brave and beautiful. "You won't lose me," he said. "I promise." He pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried, letting her release all the fear and anger and confusion that had been building up inside her. And when she was finished, when her tears had dried and her breathing had steadied, she looked up at him with those violet eyes and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." "Thank me after we survive the attack," he said. "We still have work to do." The fleet arrived 2 days later. They came out of hyperspace in a swarm of warships, hundreds of them, filling the sky with their black hulls and glowing engines. It was the largest military force they had ever assembled, their final desperate attempt to prove that they were still a power to be feared. But they were ready for them. Cole had spent the days since arrest preparing the defenses, coordinating with the fleet commanders and positioning the ground forces. He had turned the Royal Guard into a proper fighting unit, ready to respond to any threat that made it through the orbital defenses. And when the landing craft started falling from the sky, his guards were waiting. The battle for Velar Prime lasted 6 hours. Cole fought on the front lines, leading his guards against wave after wave of soldiers. They held the palace gates when the enemy tried to breach them. They counterattacked when the flanks weakened. They fought and bled and died, but they did not break. Cole killed more enemies than he could count. His plasma rifle grew hot in his hands from constant firing. His knife became slick with blood. But he kept fighting, kept pushing forward, kept leading his people to victory. And when it was over, when the last ship had been destroyed and the last enemy soldier had surrendered, Cole stood in the ruins of the palace courtyard and looked up at the purple sky. They had won. The celebrations lasted for days. They sang songs about the battle, composed poems about the heroes who had fought and died. Cole's name was spoken with reverence, the human who had saved their princess and then helped save their world. But Cole did not feel like celebrating. Too many good people had died, guards he had trained and come to care about. Victory always came with a cost, and he was not sure the cost had been worth it. He was standing on the palace balcony, watching the sunset when found him. "You should be at the feast," she said. "Everyone is asking for you." "I'm not in a feasting mood." She moved to his side and leaned against the railing, her silver skin glowing in the fading light. "Neither am I, if I'm being honest, but my mother says it's important for morale. The people need to see their heroes." "I'm not a hero, I'm just a guy who's good at killing." "You're much more than that." She turned to face him and her expression was serious. "You saved my life, you trained our guards, you found the traitor and stopped the attack. Without you, Velar Prime would have fallen. Maybe, or maybe your people would have found another way. They're stronger than they think. Because you showed them how to be strong." She reached out and touched his face, her cool fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "You changed us, Cole. You changed me, and I'm grateful even if you won't accept it." Cole closed his eyes, leaning into her touch. He had been alone for so long, had convinced himself that he did not need anyone, but had proven him wrong. She had become his anchor, his reason for fighting, his hope for the future. "I love you," he said. The words came out before he could stop them, simple and honest and terrifying. His eyes widened, and for a moment Cole was afraid he had made a mistake. But then she smiled, and it was like the sun's rising after a long night. "I love you too," she said. "I have for a while now. I was just waiting for you to figure it out." She kissed him then, her lips soft and warm against his, and Cole felt something inside him break free. All the walls he had built, all the defenses he had maintained, they crumbled away like dust in the wind. He was home, he was loved, he was finally where he belonged. When they pulled apart was laughing, her violet eyes bright with joy. My mother is going to have questions, she said. Let her ask. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. They stood there on the balcony, hand in hand, watching the sun set over a world that had been saved. Behind them, the sounds of celebration drifted through the palace, songs and laughter, and the clinking of glasses. And Cole, the human warrior who had come to protect a princess and ended up saving a civilization, finally allowed himself to believe that everything was going to be okay. The galaxy was still dangerous. There would be more threats, more enemies, more battles to fight. But as long as he had by his side, as long as he had a home and a purpose and people who trusted him, he knew he could face anything. Because that was what humans did. They fought, they survived, they protected the ones they loved. And they never, ever gave up.